Okay, were you able to see my screen? Hello.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's talk about so we'll be accelerating the development. We'll be having at least everyday classes also. Okay. All right. Let's talk about the development. Why do we need the development for Salesforce? We know what is that admin can do. Admin can uh, create objects, fields, and they can associate the page layouts. They can define the page layouts, where they can create a form. The customer can go and feed the data, and they can do bulk uploader. They can upload the data. They can download, or they can take the export of the data, Salesforce database, and they can manage the users. They can generate the reports and all these things. So basically, there comes a question. Oh, okay, everything is available in Salesforce. Then why do we need the development, right? Okay. So the reason why do we need the development for the Salesforce is it's not that always the Salesforce has everything out of box to fit the business requirements. Like say, for example, I have a dashboard, right? I told you in the admin, what is the dashboard? We know, we had, let me log into the Salesforce here. Login.salesforce.com. All right, so this is the Salesforce, right? This is the Lightning. We know that this is the dashboard. Like if you go to any app, you can see, for example, sales. If you go to sales, we can see here that this is the dashboard, right? Say, for example, you want to develop your own component. So my training will be completely focused towards on the Lightning, but I'm also going to teach you guys what is before the Lightning, what is Visual Force or what is Apex. I'll teach you everything, okay, in terms of the development. Like if you want to develop our own component here, how do we do that? Say, for example, I'm the CEO of the company. I log in. I want to see my stock information, how much it's trading in the New York Stock Exchange. Or I want to get some news informations, on-demand news informations. How do we do that? Whenever you want to make an external call to the external service, that is not available in Salesforce, right? You need to talk to some other people, some other system to get the data. Like for example, if somebody is saying that okay, they are feeding in the data for the patient, they are feeding the data for the patient information, and your hospital is using the Salesforce, they're putting the data for the patient, and patient will also have the insurance information, right? You want to validate is the insurance is correct, they're up to date, they do not give us any expired insurance or anything. How do they do that? You call the insurance company, meaning not call over the phone. You make a request from your Salesforce, you provide them, you give them the input, like hey, this is the insurance ID, and they will give us a response. Okay, so this is the information, and we have it. And it's not that they're not going to give it for anybody. They knew that who is making the request, right? Say, for example, I'm the New York Presbyterian Hospital, NYP, New York Presbyterian Hospital. I'm making a request from this hospital. So they knew that, oh, okay, this hospital is making the request against this patient. And this is the insurance ID, and we can provide them all the information, right? So those kind of things where you need the development. And also, somebody is migrating from some other platform to the Salesforce platform, and they're saying that, hey, I want to migrate my data. Like you think of bookstore as an example. They'll be having like multiple data, right? The bookstore will have like books, they will have authors, they'll have all those things that needs to be migrated to the Salesforce. How do you do that? You can write a simple program to read the data and then create the data. Create the data in sense like, you can create the record in the object. For example, like we have here, right? So we have been focusing on like, books or restaurants or offers or anything. So what does that admin do? Like, admin, they create this form. If you do it manually, you go here and click new, and then we create a new book, right? So if there are like 1,000 books, we don't want to create like 1,000 books manually. Okay. And also the admin can also do the uploader. Like, remember data loader. We talked about the data import wizard in the admin. Like for example, if you go here to the admin and data import, this is the data import wizard, right? Where they can go and upload the data from the spreadsheet, right? They can go and upload the records updated. They can go and upload the data. Like say, for example, here's the requirement, right? These are the things that admin can do. Then why do we need the development? For example, there are like thousands of employees are migrated from some other platform to the Salesforce. Salesforce, you're going to create like 1,000 employees. And there is a logic needs to be there. For example, hey, Karthik, his joining date is January 3rd, 2011. Sai, his joining date is February 2, 2014. Salman, his joining date is January 5th, 5th, 2015. So whenever we are storing the data into the Salesforce, if we need to have some manipulation, for example, hey, people whoever worked on this company for more than 5 years, they will get 4 weeks of paid time off. 4 weeks in sense, they'll get like 20 days of paid time off. People who worked for 3 years, they will get like 2 weeks of paid time off. People who worked less than 2 years will get like 1 year paid time off. Okay. So the wizard that I showed you before as an admin, if they upload the data, whatever in the spreadsheet will get updated to the Salesforce. But if you want to have this logic written and then do the manipulations, how can we do that? So we need to have the development, right? You need to write a piece of code. When we write the development, only then you can have your logic. Like, like people who work for 10 years will get 5 weeks of vacation. Like it's the same thing, guys. Like, if you see here, this is going to be in your employee table, right? Employee, there'll be an employee object. Sorry, employee object. And then the first record is going to be like Karthik. Second record is going to be like Salman. Third record is going to be like Sai. Okay. So we know the joining date from this. Whenever we are loading the data, we know the joining date. So we write a piece of logic to update the fields. We update the fields like, vacation or paid time off. So we update this field based on their joining date. So which means that your program is really needed to do some manipulations other than the out of box. And also whenever you want to do some external integrations, when you want to do the integrations to the external systems, integration to the external systems, you need the development. Okay. All right. Let's say, what is this Salesforce development architecture? Okay. So we know that Salesforce has like 2 platforms, Classic and the Lightning, right? Okay. So the entire Salesforce is built based on the framework called MVC. MVC, okay? MVC design. What is MVC? MVC is called model, view, controller. This is called MVC design patterns. And somebody asked, like, do you know what is the pattern behind the Salesforce development? It's called MVC, model, view, controller. Let's talk about it. Like, what is the model? Okay. Model is nothing but the object. Model is nothing but the object. We know what is object, right? The object is nothing but a collection of information, a collection of data. And it's a framework in the Salesforce. Like, what are the standard objects? We know the 2 different types of objects, standard objects and custom objects. What are the standard objects we know? We know account, contact, opportunity, lead, anything. These are all the standard objects. We created like books, offer, property, anything what we create is called the custom objects. Like even you can have like book, whatever you see it in the object, like when you go to the Salesforce, you go to the object manager, you have a list of objects. Everything is called the model. The reason why we are calling the model is this is the skeleton for the data, and model is the one which is closer to the database. Meaning the model is nothing but the data, right? How do you create books? You need to have the object, only then you can create books. How do you create employee? You need to have an object, only then you can go and put the data into your employee object. Anything, whatever the data that you put or that you save, where does it getting saved? It's saving into the database, which is the Salesforce database, right? Like let's go to the Salesforce here, and I go to the sales app, and I go to the, these are all the tabs for various objects. I go to the books, and then I create like new book, right? For example, book 1. Book number is going to be like 32523. I'm publishing this book on this date. And so who is giving me the book? You can even say this is just a user. Like, test. And then I'm saying like author. Who is the author? I'm just selecting the author. What country this is being published in US. And this is the value, whatever. And I'm saving. So if you see here, the data has been saved. So which means that when we say data is saved, tomorrow if you come back and see, the data will be available. 10 years after, if you come and see, still the data will be available. Meaning the data is persistent. What is meant by a word called persistent? The data is saved forever. It's called the persistent layer. The data is saved. You can come back tomorrow and see, take a look at the what book you created and everything. Okay. So that is what it is called as the model. Okay. And then what is view? Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, good. View. What is called the view? The view is nothing but, in the IT world, they call it as UI. What is UI? It's nothing but user interface. What do you mean by user interface? It's a screen where the user makes interaction, right? For example, you go to the Salesforce. I click on new. It could be offer or anything, any object. It doesn't matter. New. See, you created this form for somebody to interact. Now Karthik is interacting to put the data, to save the data. That is called, whatever it's visible to the user, it's called the user interface. Like I can customize this. I don't have to have the same layout, whatever Salesforce is providing. I can even customize it. I can put background image. I can change this logo, or I can put my company banner at the top, and I can even make this text to be make it bold, italic, yeah, or whatever. And I can even bring this calendar outside. Whatever the information that you want to do, you can do it. Or like for example, you see here property. When I'm searching the property, I have to click here. I have to click here. The click is not working. So, and I'm searching for the property. I can go and search. It says that the PR I'm searching it, right? Or when I click on this icon, you can even bring a pop-up. You can list all the properties, where you can drag and drop the properties, where you can select the property from the drop down, or from the you can pick one of the property from the pop-up. You can do all sort of user interface things. That is what it is called as the view. So the UI screen where the user interacts, called the user interface. And then the finally what is called the C, controller. So now I told you what is object, you know what is model. All of these are the model. You go to the setup, object manager, and you see these are all the object. These are nothing but the model. And view is nothing but, even this is called the view. The user interacts with this data, right? You go here, it's not just only the new, even the list, anything is called the user interactive screen. I'm interacting with the sales, I'm clicking on the sales app. This is the dashboard. This is again the UI, user interface. And I'm just clicking on the accounts to see the recent accounts. See, this is the user interface. Or I'm displaying, this is just the recently viewed list screen for the accounts. Anything you develop for the user interface is called the view. And if you see here closely, what does your view displays? The view displays the data from the database, the data from the model, right? This gene point, micron systems, edge communications, whatever you see here, these are all the data that is saved in the model called accounts, right? And then it is getting printed in the list screen for user to see the list, right? So there should be a guy in the middle who gets the data from the database and then bring it to the screen, right? That is called as the controller. Controller is the one which controls the data. Controller is the one which controls the data. Controls the data, meaning the main guy to manipulate all the data and deliver to UI. Basically, the controller is the one bridge which forms the bridge. This forms the bridge between model and UI, which is called view. So the controller is the guy goes to the model, get the data and give it to view, and the view is the one which prints the data. So this guy prints the data, model is the one which saves the data or persists the data. Who is saving? It persists the data. So let me see if we can pull up the diagram, not the diagram I had. So if you see here, this is a database where all the data is saved. Okay. And here is the client. Client is like, anybody, the visitors visiting the pages in the cloud. It's all the cloud platform, right? Salesforce. Seeing the page and then seeing the data from the database. And here is where your controller is there, and then controller is bringing the data and then giving. Controller not only can bring the data from the database, it can also bring from the external world. The example that I gave is to get the information from the insurance, to get the stock information from the stock exchange, anything like that. So this is what, this is called model, this is called view, and this is called the control, this is called the controller. So in terms of Salesforce, what are the languages used in the Salesforce? You might wonder, like, Java, .NET, Visual Basic, Oracle, anything. So many languages, right? What is it related to the Salesforce? Salesforce has model, right? Model is nothing but the database objects. You are familiar with that. We have created multiple database objects, fields, and we created the relationships and all these things. Okay. And the next one is view, right? View is nothing but what we are presenting to the client, to the customer. So what are the language that we are using it here is called Visual Force. Visual Force is the one to create the page templates. Okay. And lightning components. So if you go to this is the lightning, right? If I go to the home, you can create the lightning component. This is one component, this is another component, this is another component. You can create the lightning component. But at the same time, if you go to Salesforce Classic, in the olden days, this is called the Visual Force page. Like, you can see literally the difference. Click on the account, you click on Gene Point account, you see here it's all one single page. It's written in the language called Visual Force. Okay. These are all like one single page. You see here, these are all bundled together in one single page. Whereas if you switch to Lightning, and if you go to the accounts, same Gene Point, you see here, it's all component based. This is one component, the related is another component. You can click on it and then see the details, and you can click on the news related information, and then you can have the activity chatter. These are all like individual components. So for the Lightning, it is called the language called Lightning components, which is nothing but Aura, A-U-R-A, Aura components. Okay. Whereas for the Classic, it's called Visual Force pages. And for the model, we know database objects. And the next guy is the controller, right? What they are using it for the controller. Controller is the one, is the middleman, which connects the bridge between the Lightning component and the database, the Lightning component and the database, or Visual Force and the database. He's the controller guy. What is the language we are using, or we are calling it in the Salesforce? It's called Apex. Apex is a programming language. In Salesforce, I don't want to directly go and teach you what is Apex. I want you to understand the concept, architecture. That's what the developer needs to know. Why are we using it? So you can easily connect the dots. Why do we need the development? What is the purpose of the development? And what are the various programming languages that is involved in the development? And how can we implement them? How can we utilize them? And how to bring the output in terms of developing the custom solution. Okay. Now we have seen why do we need the development. We have seen some examples, and we have seen the architecture, which is called modern way controller. Now we know what is model, what is V, what is controller. Any questions? I'll teach you in a very simple words so that you're familiar with your development experience, and you can even become a very well-versed development. If you just follow my instructions. Any questions so far?
No.
Perfect. No. All right. So now we have seen even this diagram. Now this is like, this is the client, and we are accessing the Salesforce cloud, and this is the Visual Force page. If you see it here, whatever I said, that is all connected to each other. You see here, this is the database. We know the object. That's nothing but in the saving in the database. And what the clients see, what the users are seeing is the Visual Force page. And where the data is coming, this guy, he's the controller which gets the data and then serves to the Visual Force. And here is the law. Here is where we write all the business logic. When you say business logic, it could be integrating to the external systems. It could be, for example, see here, when I told you, when we migrate the employee data, we have to calculate the number of vacation days based on the joining date. All the logic will be written here. You cannot write the logic here in the database. It's all data is saved. This is just presenting the data. You cannot write the logic here. This is the business logic layer. This is where you write the application logic. That's where it's written like Apex programming. This is the main guide which connects the bridge between these two, and where you write all the business and the application logic. This not only gets the data from here, it can even call the data to the web service calls to the external world, to the external systems. So hope it's all clear. What is Visual Force? What is Apex? What is model? That's where I related with the model view controller. All right. So where do we do the development? So, okay, first we are going to learn about, now we know you are familiar with what is object, what is fields and everything, right? Okay, now we are going to learn about the controller. Controller is the one which we will be learning first, and then we will learn, we already learned the model is completed. You know how to create the model, which means the database objects, how to connect the two objects, the relationship, lookup relationship, related records, parent-child relationships. You know all these things. You know how to. As part of admin, we know we are well versed in creating the model. The only thing that we need to learn as part of the development is the view and the controller. Okay, the view is going to be Visual Force page, and the Lightning components we'll be seeing, and in the controller we'll be talking about the Apex programming language. Now let's talk about the Apex programming. You can stop me and ask any questions if you guys have. Okay, feel free to ask any questions if you guys have. All right. So the Apex programming. What is the advantage of Apex programming? Okay. Even before I go to the Apex programming, I just want to tell you guys how to do the development in Salesforce. Okay, that will be helpful for you to connect the dots. How do we do the development in Salesforce? You might wonder, like, you have seen all these things about how to create the objects, relationships, reports, users, exporting the data, importing the data, sales process, all those things. What is the developer can do? How do they do it? So simple. We have various ways for doing the development. One of the way, the Salesforce itself is providing the development environment. If you click on this icon, you can see that. If you can click on this icon, gear icon, you can see the developer console. When you click on your console, the developer console, you can see a different screen opens up where you can write your code. You can write your Visual Force code, or you can write your Lightning code, Aura component code, or you can write your Apex classes. So all you need to do is go to the gear icon and then click on the developer console. That's it. So is this the only way to do the development? No, this is not the only way to do the development. Okay. We talked about the development console. IDE. It's called development environment. Okay, integrated development environment, or the interface for the development environment. How can you easily code or do the development? Like Salesforce has developer console, and there is also like Eclipse plugin available. Eclipse plugins. There's an Eclipse called where you can write your code in the Eclipse. And once you dump the plugin into your Eclipse Eclipse plugin can be connected to your org, meaning your Salesforce will be connected to your Eclipse. You can bring in the code, you can push the code, you can do all sort of things. The other thing that are popular in the market is Microsoft developed a VS Code called Visual Source Code. Okay, so that is again another tool that where you can do the development. Basically, it's also simple. You need to write a code, you need to deploy into the Salesforce. That's the only thing we do, right? How easily you can, we don't have to necessarily write everything in the developer console. You can even do it with your IDE, right? So this is now you know how to do the development. We'll start off with the developer console, which is very easy, okay? That's what Salesforce came up with initially, and even today they're using it. All right. So, and then let's talk about, since we know what is object, right? What is data? Data is nothing but a piece of information. We create a record. We also know the data type, right? We created a lot of data types. It could be integer, it could be string, it could be email address, it could be number, or it could be another record. So we have been dealing with all the data types that we saw in the admin. So whenever you write code, whenever we develop code, we need to maintain the variable or data. For example, I'm writing a simple code, A, B. You need to add A and B and give in the C. C equal to A plus B. This is the logic, right? Simple. A can be 10, 20, 30, 50, 40. B can be like 7, 8, 9, anything. C equal to A plus B. That's what we are giving. How will the system know what is A, what is B, what is C? You need to tell the system, hey guys, please consider A as integer A, and then integer B, and then integer C. So if you tell what is called this integer, what are these called integer, we tell the system, you need to tell the system, right, who is A, who is B, who is C, otherwise it will get confused. What is this? This is called the data type in the programming language. The admin, we tell, hey, create a employee number and then mark it as integer or number, and we tell first the name of the employee to be string, right? Similarly, whenever you write a code, you need to tell the program about what are the variables you are using. So there are various data types, like primitive data types, and then the collections. Okay. Now, whatever you see, like integer, string, double, long, these are all called the primitive data types. When will you use string? If I want to save a name, like like University of Texas. What is the name of your college? University of Texas. you're saying that, okay, let's take an example of, we are writing about one profile, okay, and we are telling name, and we need date of birth, and we need university that he's studying, and we are saying that professor to whom he is reporting to, his email address, all those things, so and so. If you see here, the name is called, it can have the data type string, date of birth can have the data type as date, university can have the data type as string, and professor can have another object data type, right? Professor can be a user or author, right? Sorry, user, it can be another user, right? Professor can be a user. If it is like a Karthik can be one of the user in Salesforce. You just don't have to specify, because remember, you can even specify it as string. In that case, it will just have the name as Karthik. But if you want to get to know Karthik's address information, Karthik address, fax, phone number, all those things, this itself needs to be considered as an object. Remember, when we are talking about the property and offer, there can be one property and can be multiple offers. Offer will be another object. Remember, when we are talking about the book on authors, an author can write multiple books. We create a books, and then author can be associated, meaning it's a repurpose. You can reuse the same author who has written the multiple books. So otherwise, if it's just going to be just the name as Karthik, and then you have to go and identify where Karthik address, phone number, and all that. Otherwise, you can simply put object itself. Object itself. Object is another data type. In Salesforce, this object is called the S object. We call it a Salesforce object, which is called the S object. Email can be a simple string, and address can also be a simple string or text or anything. Okay. Now you know what is data type. I literally compared from what we learned in the admin with the objects to the code. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay.
No.
Okay, cool. So even the development first class will be eager to know how can we do the development, right? So you know how to get here. Developer console, you can come here. You can go to the file, new, Apex class. This is what? The Apex language. We are learning the controller now, Apex language. My first class. So whenever you create a class, it will create public class name. Okay, I will teach you what is class and everything. Next class, what is class, what is object and everything. Okay, I just want to tell you, even in the first class, you will start learning about how to do the development. That's my goal. Okay, okay, we come here, and then we are saying that, okay, and then I'm just going to write. I'll explain you line by line what is it all about. Okay, public print name. System.debug. This is my first dev class. Okay. Okay, I wrote a piece of code here. This is how you write the Apex class. Okay. All right. How do you compile it? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it like, what are the highlights of Apex programming? Okay. Hey, let me know if I'm going a little faster. Okay, I just want to make it faster, since you both are familiar with the admin, and from what I learned from you guys, you can easily grasp or capture the concepts. That's why I'm just making it. Otherwise, I will even take this as 2 classes. but I just want to expedite a little bit since you guys are getting it. In case if you don't understand at any given point of time, you can stop me. Hey Karthik, I have a question here. Can you please repeat that? Or I do not understand what you're saying. Okay, you can ask me anything. Okay. So, but I always connect the dots in teaching so that you can easily understand. That's why I was able to connect the data types onto the data type in the programming in the Apex class. Now you know what is Apex, what is Visual Force, say Visual Force, and what is model. Okay, right. Now we learned about the programming. You know how to do the coding now. Click onto the developer console. You can create the Apex class. Okay. So this is what now we are going to talk about. What is Apex programming? All right. This is similar to Java. Does anybody has experience? One of you or both of you can you answer if you guys have any similar experience in Java? Have you ever done any Java program?
I've done a bit of it.
Okay, cool. Sai, have you done any Java development in the past?
No.
No? Okay, good. That's fine. So I'll teach you in such a way that you can easily get it. Okay. It's similar to Java. What's Java? It's a object-oriented programming. When you say object-oriented programming, you will have a class, you'll have an object, you'll have a method. I'll teach you one by one everything. Okay. How can you access your method? All these things on the Java programming. Just nothing but similar object-oriented programming called Java. And this is a hosted language. Hosted language, meaning this is again hosted in the cloud. You see here, I can literally write a code in the cloud. I'm writing this code in the cloud. This is the cloud URL. It's not like Java. You can write only in the client and then you have to deploy it, compile it, and then put it into a server to run. Even the same thing with the .NET or anything. This is literally I'm writing this on the cloud. This is the hosted language. As soon as you write the code, it tells the different classes. What is the class, and it gives its different colors to differentiate the code and all these things because you're writing it in the cloud. All right, and typed language. So what is called the typed language? When you type your programming language, it compiles automatically by itself. See here, it compiles automatically. I purposely made a mistake and then I created like a problem. You see here, it'll come like invalid constructor name, print name. Okay, so if I just put see here, all the problem is gone. You ignore this. You ignore everything, whatever I write, because I'm writing programming. You don't have to just follow this. You might not get an idea of this. Just understand the concept what I'm teaching. It's typed language. I was able to prove that it's typed language. It compiles. There is no command to compile. There is no additional step needed to compile. As you write the code, it gets compiled automatically. That's the only thing that I want to teach you. Is it all clear?
Yes.
Even if I just miss this curly brace and then you save it, it takes some time to save it. See here, missing at the public. You are missing this, it tells. When you save it, it tells. It will not let you to save and it will tell the compilation error. All you have to do is to file, save. That's all you need to do. Or Control S to get the compiled, to get it compiled. So as you tap, it gets compiled. So that is what it is called as the compiled language. So cool. It's unique than any other language. And then again, so these are all the, when I say like Java language, similar to Java, it has its own inheritance, class, object kind of thing. And also, the other thing is it's hosted on the cloud. When it is hosted on the cloud, even in the admin we saw this is a multi-tenant environment. I mean, one person cannot see others' code. Each have their own login, and then they'll have the unique URL, and it's all hosted in the cloud. It's multi-tenant environment, and it has the uptime of 99.9%. Because now we are totally rely on the Salesforce. If the Salesforce is down, your business can be down, right? So, and the more important thing and the last thing is, by default, it is integrated with the database. Okay, meaning if you want to access the account data, you can write here access the account data. Or if you want to receive the contact data, you can get it here. You don't have to write any additional code to get the details from the database. Okay, I'll tell you how to do that. That's the next step. Next class, I'll tell you how it can be connected to the database. It's always connected to the database. In the Java, you'll have to open up the driver. You'll have to install the driver. You'll have to specify the driver. You have to specify the database. Like if you are installing MySQL, it will be like MySQL driver, Oracle thing driver. So you'll have to specify the driver. You have to open up the connection to the database. You have to make a tunnel and then read the data from the database. Nothing doing here. It's all connected to the database already. Right now, if you want to access the account data, you can access it. And you can want to store the data to the database through a code, you can save it. So it's by default, it's connected to the database. Is it all clear?
Yeah.
Cool. So now in this class, we know how to access the developer console. You know how to create a simple class, and you know advantages of Apex. You know what is Apex. You know what is model. You know what is visual force. What is view, what is controller, what is model, how they're all connected to each other, and what is the purpose of each of these items. And we are talking about the Apex in detail. Okay. And more interestingly, I want to teach you first about what is class and object, and then I want you to get this class compiled. I don't want to do it right now and make you confused. How can you compile this? You know what is compilation. This control S will compile. How do you see the output? That I'll take care of it in the next class. How to see the output. Before that, we need to see what is class, what is object, and then we'll compile, and then we'll see how we can see the output. Only then you can connect the dots. Okay, we don't want to skip. We need to understand what is class and what is method and all that. Okay. Now you know how to write the piece of code without compilation error. Just even if you don't put this, if you create a class and then save it, it will just save it. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, so we'll meet again tomorrow, and then I'll take the next class. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, bye.